Hello, everybody. Welcome to your introduction to the physics laboratory, the laboratory component of Physics 182, the second semester of the introductory sequence physics for the physics majors here at Luther College in spring of 2021. I'm Professor Jeff Wilkerson. For those of you who might be watching this and not part of the class, for those of you in the class, we'll meet tomorrow when I'm taping this, and so you haven't met me yet either. So I'm looking forward to this. This should be a lot of fun. We're going to talk in this particular video segment. We're going to talk about the practice, the theory and practice of the laboratory component of the class, what we are trying to accomplish and how we're going to go about accomplishing that. So I think we'll start with the mechanics first. So we'll look at the mechanical aspects of how we're going to run the lab. And we will meet each week on Thursday, and we'll have some sort of question or questions that we're trying to answer, although new questions might arise as we do this work, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. You will work in teams of 3, but whenever possible, there will be 3 complete setups for the laboratory, so each of the 3 of you may be working independently at different tables, working on the question at hand. And some of you may be working on setting things up, trying things out, wiggling things around, doing whatever. And each laboratory, so we're going to have a question, a primary question, maybe a set of secondary questions and other questions that come up that we're going to try to answer in the laboratory with each project that we're doing. And we may or may not have some idea of what the answer to those questions is going to be in advance, and we may have to do quite a bit of exploratory work to figure out what the best way to answer those questions is. But you're going to set about doing that. And each project will take either 2 or 3 weeks. 3 weeks is the preferred. We may decide that we're going so well on a project, we may extend it to 4 weeks and cut out, a couple of these may go to 4 weeks, and then we cut out 1 of the 2 weeks labs. So we're trying to balance this idea of covering several topics and also really going in depth and really getting a feel for what it's like to do a physics experiment. We will be exclusively looking at optics and electronics in the lab. So we're going to start with optics. The first half of the laboratory component will be optics, and we have 3 optics projects we're going to undertake, and then we'll have 2 electronics projects that we'll undertake after that. And so that's it. That's what we're going to try to get done here. It is not matching the discussion and lecture component of the course, the problem-solving component of the course. So we do not have we don't need to try to match what we're doing in that component. In fact, this is the only place you'll do optics is in the laboratory. Electronics we will cover in the remainder of the course, but in optics will just be here. And we're going to start right in. Because we're just doing optics in the laboratory, you will have weekly homework assignments from your textbook on the Mastering Physics. I will give you 2 or 3 problems to set you up to think about the concept that we're dealing with in the laboratory. So you are doing some homework problems like as if we were covering it in the other component of the course. We used to cover it in the other component of the course, the lecture discussion component of the course. And we stopped to provide more time to do other material, to say, let's sort of move this out into the laboratory and really focus on it in the laboratory. But because we did that, we still want you to work in some homework problems to get a feel for what it means to find the focal length of a lens or something like that, how you go about doing that. So you at least have a little bit of a basic introduction to that kind of work. So you'll be doing that. In addition, there will be other homework that you'll hand to me or upload to the Katie site. And that'll be homework from Hughes and Hayes, or Hughes and Hayes type homework, data analysis type homework. So you'll be looking at your data analysis homework each week. You'll probably have 1 or 2 mastering physics problems and 1 data analysis problem to work on. The data analysis problems will be things, either whether they come from Hughes and Hayes or whether I write them. I'll probably write them more often than not. And there'll be things that are designed to help you think about how you want to analyze data, often with the very experiment you have going on, a way that I think that might be productive, a productive inroad to understanding that data set that you're working with right at that time. So that's hopefully helpful, both for building a base of stuff you can use in the future and for doing the project that you're working on right now. So anyway, that's how we're going to do that. After the 3 weeks or the 2 weeks of the lab, you will have 1 week to turn in a lab report, and you will turn one lab report per team. So each team turns in one lab report, and you can upload that to the Katie site, or give that to me. And so you'll have those lab reports, and it'll be three of you will author. You're in teams of three. Your teams can be found. They've been assigned. They can be found on the Katie site right now, so you can go look at those and see with whom you'll be working on the labs. And so you turn that in as a team of three. In addition to that, you will have an e-portfolio. We're gonna do some stuff in the e-portfolio. In the other segment, of course, we're gonna have a lab component to the e-portfolio. And in the e-portfolio portion of the lab, I would like for you to upload a lab debriefing report, and I've got a template for that on the Katie site as well. So each individual person uploads that to his or her e-portfolio, the debriefing report that asks you about your contributions to this work, how you thought the work went. If you had it all to do over again, how would you go about doing it differently, to reflect a little bit on what you learned about the process of trying to figure out whatever it was we were trying to figure out in the lab. And so that's going to be that component for you to upload there. But also each week, after we've done the lab each week, I would like you to do an entry in your e-portfolio, and that entry in your e-portfolio will be a reflection on what you learned in the lab and what you want to try to get out of lab the next week, to say, okay, what am I going to do now that we're in the middle of a project? What am I going to do in the middle of this project to really see this thing through to the end? What did we figure out? What do we need to know better? How am I going to hit the ground running when I get in the lab and squeeze the most out of those 2 hours in the lab to get the data that I need to answer this question? So there'll be a place to reflect on that in your e-portfolio, and you'll do that each week as you go along. And this will be a record of how you're thinking about doing a project and how you're thinking about getting a project done. You'll be able to keep this e-portfolio, and so you can keep this as you go through your career here at Luther College doing physics projects, and see how your thinking evolves in tackling tough projects like this, and thinking about how you're going to work on those projects. So that's what we got going on in terms of the mechanics of the lab. Each week, you will be working on a project. Each project will take 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe we'll extend some of those to 4. We'll see as the semester goes on. You will turn in a formal written report at the end of those 2 or 3 weeks, 1 week later. And there's a template for that out there that shows you the sections that we would like. Plus, I've uploaded to the Katie site a couple of PDFs of research papers that I think do a pretty good job of saying, hey, here's the question we were trying to answer. Here's how we went about it. Here's the things that we worked on. Here are the things that were hard to do. Here's how we figured this out. Here's a few graphs of data to show you, and so on, that you can use as samples to say, oh yeah, I think I see what's going on with this paper, and I understand what they're trying to say, and I want to try to emulate that in the reports that I'm writing. So those reports will be pretty formal and require a decent amount of analysis in there. In between there, you'll upload your assessments to your e-portfolio, and at the end of the project, you'll upload your whole working assessment to the e-portfolio. That's the mechanics of how the lab's going to run. 9 setups whenever we can have 9 setups, always at least 3 setups. Sometimes it might just be 6 setups depending on how much equipment that we have. And so we'll work this out. When you get to lab tomorrow, there'll be a seating chart. That's where you'll be. You'll want to sit near your teammates so that we stay sort of isolated here. And so the 3 tables here, 3 tables here, 3 tables here for the 3 teams. And we'll work on this on the first lab here. That's what I got. I think I'm going to stop right there. I said this was going to be theory and practice of doing the labs, but I think we've talked long enough, and so this is the practice, the mechanical part of doing the labs, and we'll turn right around and we'll shoot a theory part of doing the labs next. So we'll see everybody soon. Thanks.